Hello, everyone, and welcome. So, finally, my long promised little catch up session on Morgan Geyser and how she became to be in the situation that she was earlier this December, where she was on the run from um, a group home. She had cut her tether on her ankle and taken off with someone that she had met um, I believe at church, possibly. But I also something I saw an article that was shared, I believe it was last week, also that has a huge. It's a theme that seems to be going on in this story too, in the origins of Morgan Geyser and her friend Anissa Weir, who committed the crimes, and So, Breaking Chains had posted an article about, or a question about Australia. Australia just recently made, put a ban on social media for kids under 16. And they have used information that they've collected about the harm that it does mentally to kids. And so I had really thought about that. And now the rule in my home, again, I have a special needs son, so we do things a little bit differently. And I'm a little more careful. Maybe I need to be a little more careful than some other parents have to be. I'll put it that way. And so our rule was 16 years old because we thought that he would be hopefully mature enough to be able to handle anything that goes on social media, anything that's said, etc., or come to us if he had a problem, things like that. But I got lucky. The only thing he wanted was YouTube, so I don't have to worry about that. But we are pretty vigilant in our home about what our kids are watching on the internet, whether or not they're talking to people, allowed to talk to people, not allowed to talk to people. Very small circle of people that we know and we've vetted that they're allowed to say play a game with, etc., or do FaceTime when we're right there, family, friends, things like that. So something that came up in this story was a website and a wiki called Creepypasta. And I know a lot of you have heard about Creepypasta. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Creepypasta was something that Sebastian Rogers, the missing young man out of Tennessee. In fact, we're going to be coming up on the 2-year anniversary of that sad event and still looking for him, still trying to keep his name out there. But anyway, I remember his dad, mentioning that they used to listen to creepypastas at night to go to sleep. So, and that's, you as a parent know what your child can handle usually and what they can't. So anyway, this was mentioned in this article, and this is where the Slenderman character comes from, is from Creepypasta. So, first, I found this news article. This is basically about the time that she got arrested, and it explains the situation around that. It's in Waukesha, Wisconsin, which is also known for, if you're a fan of true crime and of trials, the Darrell Brooks trial. He drove through a Christmas parade and then had one of the longest trials ever, made a complete mockery of himself. And I've said it before, that was when I first decided that I had a favorite judge, and her name was Jennifer Darrow. and she really crossed every T and dotted every I and made sure that he got what he deserved fairly, and he was convicted and ended up with something like 385 years. So he's right where he belongs. But anyway, Morgan Geyser is, when she was first arrested, she was extraditioned back to Waukesha County Jail. And this article is about now that she's no longer, they're not finding her on the inmate list. So chances are she's gone back into, I'm assuming, a mental facility to wait until her next hearing to see what happens. Geyser's name did not appear on the Waukesha County Jail inmates list on Wednesday. In 2014, when Geyser was 12, she stabbed her 12-year-old friend, Peyton Leutner, nearly to death. She and another girl, Anissa Weir, told police they stabbed Leutner to please the fictional online character Slenderman. Madison police say Geyser, now 23, removed her GPS monitoring bracelet and left her group home in Madison on November 22nd. She was placed in the group home by the Department of Health Services, DHS, following Waukesha County judge's decision to allow her conditional release from her mental health treatment earlier this year. And she'd gone to trial. You guys have probably seen it on Law and Crime. She'd gone to trial to ask to get out. Geyser was arrested in Posen, Illinois on November 23rd after officers were called to a gas station to check on two people sleeping behind the business. In one of my previous videos, I have got the footage from that, the clips from them getting arrested and the police being more than patient with them. And Posen police said Geyser and the person she was with originally gave officers fake names. Officers discovered their real identities and took them both into custody. Geyser was booked for a nationwide extradition for attempted first-degree murder. She was in the Waukesha County Jail after she was returned to Wisconsin. A motion hearing is scheduled for February 16th, 2026 in Waukesha County Court. So that is, that's when we will be finding out what the next steps are for her. The whole story was really sad, really scary. I've got some footage from the police interrogation. Both girls were deemed had mental health issues. It's believed that Morgan, I believe, was schizophrenic and had some other issues. It was stated that her mother, there's another video, I'll have to find it again, where her mother speaks out and talks about how even as a little girl, she really didn't have much emotion, was very flat in affect, was, and so this is something that's obviously been noticed to be different. You know, she had issues in school. She loved school, but she had issues making friends, things like that. So I am going to, we're going to go through the, actually first, what I want to do is we're going to get rid of that. Then we are going to okay. Now, this is a channel called Explore With Us. They had the police interrogation. There was a couple videos of it, just the interrogation, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So I'm going to skip around to some different timestamps. I am still recovering from this horrific cold, so please forgive me. I've got cough drops and stuff here, so if you hear something, that's all it is. So let me find my timestamps. And all right, before I read this, I'm going to play a few minutes of this, and then after I read through the wiki of the synopsis of the crime, then we can go through some of these clips. I've got some timestamps down to really kind of explain, I think, what was, it kind of puts these little girls in a different light. So first, this reminded me of, oh my gosh, I'm having a complete loss. How can I forget? It was another girl that was found that had murdered. She had murdered her boyfriend. And, oh my gosh, why can't I think of it? And she was dancing and singing in the interrogation room and just didn't really have a care in the world. And it just, yeah, wow, So, okay, let's listen to this for a second. And you'll kind of see, Jodi Arias. Jodi Arias, that's who I was thinking of, who obviously had a lot of mental issues also. But these girls were really into the internet. They were into this internet creepypasta and into this character. And was that to blame? Was it the parents to blame for having a child that they knew maybe had some issues? Were they not on top of it enough, letting her watch stuff? Would you even think that something like that might affect your child? Now, she's 12 years old, mind you, also. So, those are all the questions that.
Are you going to put me in prison and I'm going to rot and die? Please don't cut off my head. You just wait and every preparing and hold on the outside. Sometimes mocking you.
So there we see she's just kind of dancing around, doesn't have a care in the world, doesn't, really thinks nothing of what she's sitting in this police station for. So here we go. On May 31st, 2014, two 12-year-olds lured their friend, who was also 12, into a wooded area of Davids Park in Waukesha, Wisconsin, where they attempted to kill and sacrifice her to the Slenderman, a fictional supernatural being originated in creepypasta. Their target, Peyton Isabella Leutner. They call her Bella, you'll hear in some of these clips. Suffered 19 stab wounds, but surviving after being rescued by a cyclist. The perpetrators, Anissa Weir and Morgan Geyser, stated they were motivated by their belief in the Slenderman and believed that killing Leutner would appease him and prove his existence. Weir and Geyser were tried as adults in 2017. Both were found not guilty by reason of insanity and committed to secure psychiatric facilities. Weir was sentenced to 25 years to life and later released in 2021 to live with her father. Geyser was sentenced to 40 years to life and was later released in 2025 to live in a group home and to be kept under supervision until 2058. The stabbing generated public debate about the role of the internet in society and its effect on children. Now, this is 10 years ago, and we all know that it's even worse now than it was 10 years ago, and it was pretty bad. Moral panic occurred regarding the Slenderman meme. The stabbing inspired the documentary Beware the Slenderman, the movie Mercy Black, and several books. In 2019 interview, Leutner said she was recovering and that the attack had inspired her to pursue a career in medicine. In November 2025, Geyser cut off a monitoring bracelet and escaped the group home, only to be arrested in Posen, Illinois the next day and returned to custody. So here is the beginning of this. Morgan and Peyton Isabella Leutner. So Morgan and Peyton. Peyton is the one that got stabbed. They are best friends. They were friends from a very early age. They would later befriend a fellow Waukesha resident, Anissa Weir, who would become particularly close to Geyser due to them living in the same apartment building and sharing an interest in creepypasta, including the popular supernatural fictional character Slenderman, which Leutner reportedly found frightening. The interrogators were told that Geyser and Weir's obsession with Slenderman began as early as September 2013. While Geyser was imprisoned, she claimed that her dad committed multiple acts of SA against her for years prior to the attack. Weir also claimed that she was neglected by her family and that her mother committed SA upon her. None of that's ever been proven. So, both of these girls were pretty sick. It just kind of makes you wonder, was this something in their head, etc.? As their interest in the Slender Man grew, Geyser and Weir both believed the character was real and would hurt them and their families if they did not offer him a sacrifice. They subsequently planned to kill Lutner to appease Slenderman and to prove he was real. Geyser and Weir had previously planned to kill Lutner either in her sleep or in a bathroom, but didn't go through with either plan. Let me see. So let's go to... Okay.
So, there's this website called the Creepypasta Wiki. Okay. It's full of horror stories that are meant to purposely scare you through online literature and all that. Okay. And there's one of them called Slenderman. It's really Slenderman. It's Slenderman. Oh, Slenderman. I see the guy. Yeah. Okay. And we had these proxies or...
Now, this is Anissa Weir. This is the friend that became part of became friends with Morgan and subsequently Bella, because Bella was Morgan's best friend.
As people call them. Okay. Basky and Teddy. And Morgan said, "Hey, Anissa, we should be proxies." And I was like, okay, how would we do that? And that was around end of December, beginning of January. Okay.
Okay. So that was when they started to plan it. On May 31st of 2014, during a game of hide and seek in a heavily wooded Davids Park near Waukesha, Wisconsin, Geyser and Weir pinned down Lutner and stabbed her 19 times in the arms, legs, and torso with a 5-inch long blade. She suffered 2 stab wounds to major organs. One wound very narrowly missed a major artery, and another went through her diaphragm, cutting into her liver and stomach. Following the attack, Weir and Geyser told Lutner to lie down while they sought help, which they did not do. Lutner dragged herself to a nearby road where she was found by a cyclist who called emergency services. Surgeons operated for 6 hours to treat critical trauma to arteries and tissue in her torso and abdomen. Dr. John Kellerman, who operated on Lutner that day, said if the knife had gone the width of a human hair further, she would not have lived. Lutner left the hospital 7 days after the attack. She returned to school in September 2014. In 2019, in an interview, Lutner reported lingering trauma from the attack. Can you imagine? And she said she sleeps with broken scissors out of fear of being attacked again. 5 hours after the attack, police apprehended Weir and Geyser near a Steinhoffel's furniture store in Interstate 94, approximately 4.9 miles from the attack location. Police found the knife they had used in a bag they were carrying. The children said they were traveling to Chiquagamon Nicollet National Forest, 2,000 miles from where they were apprehended. In order to meet the Slenderman, at his home, which they called the Slender Mansion. And by the way, I would not have been able to pronounce that if I was not from Michigan, because that's one of the ways you can tell a Michigander. We can read words like that are derived from native language and French, because that's who built us. So during the police investigation and pretrial psychiatric evaluations, Geyser disclosed lifelong visual and auditory hallucinations starting in early childhood. These typically included figures she interpreted as ghosts, colors melting down walls, and imaginary friends named Maggie and Sev. One reoccurring hallucination was a man whom Geyser named It, whose body was the color of smoke and ink. She preserved It as standing behind her in mirrors or shifting around corners. After Geyser's arrest, her mother, Angie Geyser, described her as becoming floridly psychotic. Correctional officers reported that Geyser frequently talked to herself, pretended to be a cat, and kept ants as pets. She reported seeing unicorns and having ongoing conversations with Slenderman and other fictional characters such as Severus Snape, Lord Voldemort, and one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So, next timestamp, we're at 38:58. Oh, come on. This is when Anissa and then Morgan explain how they got Bella in the woods.
Like, she suggested her stomach. Okay. You know, so you suggested to take a walk around the block, and you pointed out the woods to Morgan and said, we can do a deep there. Okay. And then, she says, I'm not laying on my stomach in dirt. It's all squishy, and there are twigs and sharp rocks everywhere. So you're going to play hide and seek, right? Mm-hmm. Play hide and seek, and then she was supposed to be the seeker, so to keep her eyes from being to see where you guys ran, you wanted her to lay down in the dirt? No, Morgan was the seeker, and Bella and I were hiding. Okay, so you told her a place to hide. Mm-hmm.
So this is how they got her to sneak out into the forest. They originally tried, they were going to do it on their walk. They decided to go for a walk because they'd had a slumber party the night before. It was Morgan's birthday party. They couldn't do it at her home, and so then they decided to go for a walk. They tried to get her to go into a bathroom, and it didn't work out there. And so they ended up leaving the bathroom and tricking her into playing a game of hide and seek. Anissa got her to go hide out in the woods.
Why did you want her to lay down in the dirt? So that I could sit on her chest so that I could pin her down and get it done and over with, and then we could leave. You're gonna pin her down? Mm-hmm. Morgan told me to pin her down. Okay. And so like I kind of, she said no, so I kind of pushed her.
You'll notice she said that Morgan was giving orders and told her to pin her down.
Forward and sat on her hip, and then she said, ow, I can't breathe, ow, ow, ow. Then I got off because she was making a lot of noise. Was she kneeling already or something? Or? Yeah, she was kneeling, and then I pushed her. She was kneeling like this. Okay, hiding with flowers and all that. Okay. I was standing right here. I pushed her over. Okay. So like she's like there now. Okay. And then I sit right here on her hip while she's like that. Okay. And then she started complaining that she couldn't breathe, so I got off of her because she was making a lot of noise.
So what the plan is so far is that Anissa's going to hold her down, and Morgan's going to come in with the knife and take care of the rest. Because as they said, they needed to do this so that Slenderman would show himself and they could prove that he was real and become his proxies, or basically like slaves, is what it sounded like to me.
Okay. Okay. And what happened next? And I told Morgan that she's not laying down, and then she said, tackle her and I'll stab her. And then, no, there was a time when Morgan gave you the knife. And said that she couldn't do it. When was that? It was like before high school. It was like after I tackled Bella and sat on her hip. Okay. So you tell Morgan she's not laying down. Is that what it happened? And then she goes, okay, tackle. Okay, tackle her. And then I tackle her. Yeah. I get up, and then Morgan hands me the knife and says, I can't do it. You know where all the soft spots are. Like.
So here we are again. We have Morgan, or at least Anissa, saying that Morgan is calling the shots, basically, and that when they get down to the deed, she can't do it. And so she's trying to get Anissa to do this now.
I only know where soft spots are because I used to watch Doomsday Preppers, and it said that a hard blow to like the stomach or the throat with like a sucker in between your fingers can do some serious damage. A sucker being like a knife or something? No, a sucker being an actual lollipop. Oh. Okay. And then
Now here is Morgan's version of what happened. And if you listen carefully, she really has no emotion about this. I mean, it's scary. And this is a very, very, very sick little girl, if anything. Listen.
She drunks on Bella, and she held her to the floor.
Where did Anissa do this?
Mm-hmm.
Where did this happen
In some trees.
How'd you guys end up in by the trees?
Because we were going to look at like plants and stuff.
How far off the road was it?
Not very. And then we stabbed her
Maybe you stopped her.
with a knife.
You stopped her from what?
Huh?
You stopped her from what?
A knife?
How did you stop her?
I said stab.
Oh, stabbed her?
Mm-hmm.
So this happened in the woods.
It wasn't in the woods, it was just a little group of trees.
So right there too, this isn't even in the woods. This isn't just a small group of trees that they're doing this. And this is at like 9 o'clock in the morning, I think. I mean, it's pretty early, broad daylight. And she's just describing this like it's a regular day. Like they just went on a walk and this is what happened. It just shows how mentally ill she really is, even that young.
Morgan admits to the stabbing in the same matter-of-fact tone she described her morning activities.
So let's see. After Geyser's arrest, we already did that one. In the fall of 2014, Geyser was relocated to a Winnebago mental health institute and was studied there for competency to stand trial. On October 22nd, 2014, she was diagnosed with early onset childhood schizophrenia. Geyser's treatment for schizophrenia was erratic and inadequate for 20 months, which is believed to have exacerbated the psychosis and delusions. Which that makes sense. If, meds, therapies, things like that, they're trying to get, anyone that's dealt with mental health knows that everyone kind of has to find their own recipe of therapies, meds, no meds, etc., that work for them. And someone this sick, it probably was pretty bad at sometimes. November 2015, Geyser began a consistent long-term regimen of antipsychotics, which enabled the display of feelings of guilt and remorse towards the crime. On March 23, 2016, Geyser was returned to the county jail to await trial. Although still appropriately medicated, Geyser's mental health further deteriorated, linked to the stressors of forced confinement and incarceration. During the trial, Geyser was returned to the Winnebago Institute. So let's see. Now back to, they keep kind of going back and forth. Anissa's kind of putting the blame on Morgan, and Morgan's still kind of putting the blame on Anissa. I don't know that they really know the impact of what they've done yet. And you definitely can tell, again, there's just no emotion from Morgan. And this is her talking about when they packed the bag with the knife.
We both packed the bag. We knew about this since December. One day she just told me that we had to.
What do you mean she told you you had to?
I mean, she told us we had to kill her.
Who did?
Anissa.
When she says us, what do you mean us? Who's us? You mean the Julia or somebody else?
There's nobody else.
So they've been planning this since December. And so it's obviously premeditated. She's stating she's stating that Anissa told her that they had to do it. Here's one of Morgan's final statements at the end.
A huge one.
On West Avenue?
Mm-hmm. So we refilled our water bottles and went to the bathroom and washed.
Now, they had gone to Walmart that was quite a while, about 5 miles away, almost 5 miles, refilled their water bottles, washed the blood off their hands like it was no big deal, and went on about their day. Until Bella was found a little while later, shortly after, thank God, by this cyclist, and she had trouble speaking. It was hard for her to speak, etc., but she was able to tell them that it was Morgan and Anissa.
The blood off her hands. Will I regret giving you this information later?
You know, this information will be used to try to get you some help so you don't have to hear those screams and don't have to worry about hurting anybody anymore.
Okay.
That's my goal here, okay? So we got to figure out how we're going to do that.
So that is, and then we have here, let me find her again. And we have Morgan here. Current day. Geyser and Weir were tried in 2017. Due to the nature of the offenses, both were waived of the juvenile court to be tried as adults. Weir was charged with attempted second-degree homicide, a Class B felony. Weir pleaded guilty to being a party to attempted second-degree homicide. A jury found her not guilty by mental disease or defect. Weir was sentenced to 25 years to life, an undeterminate sentence requiring at least 3 years confinement and involuntary treatment in a state forensic psychiatric institute, followed by communal supervision until age 37. Geyser was charged with attempted first-degree intentional homicide, a Class A felony. She accepted a plea offer that stipulated she would not undergo a trial if she pleaded guilty and agreed to further psychiatric evaluation to determine appropriate duration of commitment to a forensic psychiatric hospital. She pleaded guilty in accordance with the plea agreement, but was also found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect, due to her diagnosis of schizophrenia by court-appointed psychiatrists. She was given the maximum sentence, 40 years to life confinement in a state forensic psychiatric institute. At a hearing on March 10th, 2021, Weir, then 19, submitted a letter to the court saying she was sorry and deeply regretful for the agony, pain, and fear that she had caused. Not just to Leutner, but to my community as well, she said. I hate my actions from May 31st, 2014, but through countless hours of therapy, I no longer hate myself for them. On July 1st, 2021, Waukesha County Judge Michael Boren ordered her release from the Winnebago Institute, gave state officials 60 days to draft a conditional release plan, and require that Weir be assigned case managers in the Wisconsin Department of Health and Services to supervise her progress until she's 37 years old, the length of her commitment. On September 13th, 2021, Weir was released with multiple stipulations, including 24-hour GPS ankle monitoring that required her to request permission before leaving Waukesha County, and no contact with Leutner until 2039. Leutner's family was reasonably comfortable with these restrictions, but wished she had served a longer sentence. Weir's internet use is restricted and monitored, and she is not allowed to use any form of social media. Weir is required to take court-mandated psychiatric medication and is escorted to regulate counseling sessions by a caseworker. She's required to live with her father until the supervision of the court. On September 11th, 2023, GPS stipulation was waived. In 2020, Geyser petitioned an appeals court to be retried as a juvenile, but was denied. Her attorney, Matthew Pinnix, argued that charges would have been attempted second-degree intentional homicide rather than first-degree, and that Geyser made statements to investigators before the recitation of Miranda rights. A petition to the Wisconsin Supreme Court to review the ruling was declined in 2021. In January 2024, Geyser, then 21, petitioned to be released from the Winnebago Institute. A judge denied this request in an April 2024 hearing, but in January 2025, a court approved hearing it after 3 psychologists noted considerable progress in her treatment. At the same time, Geyser was reported to have come out as a transgender man. In February 2025, Geyser's hearing for possible release was canceled due to new allegations that she had engaged in violent communication with a man outside the facility and read a book featuring the themes of sexual sadism and murder. Geyser's lawyer denied any inappropriate conduct. The 3 psychologists testified that the allegations did not change their opinion that she was well enough to be released. A new hearing was set for March 24th, 2025, then back to April 28th, 2025. On July 17th, 2025, a judge signed a conditional plan to release Geyser, then 22. Geyser was scheduled to live in a group home and remain under supervision until 2058 and undergo periodic reevaluations to identify any need for further treatment or institutionalization. Details of the plan and the date of her release were not shared in court. Officials found difficulty in placing Geyser in a group home. Her initial placement in Milwaukee was denied due to its close proximity to her victim, Leutner. A second attempt at Manitowoc Group Home was also denied due to the building being too isolated and residents of the home being unhappy about the placement. Attorney Tony Cotton said Geyser, his client, remained calm and stable despite the events and retained a positive attitude. She was later successfully housed at a group home in Madison. And here we come to the escape. Around 8 a.m. on November 23rd, 2025, a 911 alerted the Madison Police Department that Geyser had disappeared from the Madison home. According to police, she cut off her Department of Corrections monitoring bracelet and left the previous evening. She had been last seen at 8 p.m. the previous evening alongside a trans woman. The following day, local police in Posen, Illinois, found Geyser and her acquaintance sleeping outside a Thornton's gas station alongside Interstate 57. Now, I will link my previous video to this one, so at the end of this, you can just click right on the thing and it'll show you. It's just a short video and it shows their arrest. It discusses it. Nearly 200 miles away. The pair initially identified themselves to police as Stephanie Grease and Charles M. Robertson, respectively, but later gave their legal names after being pressured. Geyser had befriended her acquaintance at a church in Madison a few months after her release and complained to her of being mistreated in her group home. The acquaintance was denied visitation with Geyser several times, so she allegedly snuck into the group home on multiple occasions to visit Geyser. On these occasions, the two developed a plan to escape Nashville, Tennessee by bus. Once Geyser escaped, they met in the church parking lot and took a bus to Chicago. Then another bus to Posen, where they ran out of money and stopped at the Thorntons to sleep for the night. The acquaintance was charged with criminal trespassing and obstructing identification, but was released from custody. Both Geyser and the acquaintance are expecting a court hearing. When interviewed by WKOW by phone, the acquaintance stated Geyser ran because of me. And at the end of the day, I followed what I thought was right, and I stand by it. According to the acquaintance, Geyser had worried about the acquaintance's visitation rights being taken away. In the aftermath of the escape, the Wisconsin Department of Corrections sought to revoke Geyser's conditional release. The response from the creepypasta community. After the attack, the Waukesha School District blocked access to Creepypasta Wiki, a website which houses the bulk of the Slenderman lore. On June 5th, 2014, Slenderman creator Eric Knudsen released a statement of condolence. I am deeply saddened by the tragedy in Wisconsin, and my heart goes out to the families of those affected by this terrible act. Sloshed Train, a former Creepypasta Wiki administrator, said the stabbing was an isolated incident which did not represent the community. He also said that Wiki is a literary website and that its community does not condone murder or satanic rituals. A statement was also placed on the Wiki saying that Slenderman and horror writing were not the blame for the attack. On June 13th through the 14th, 2014, community members held a 24-hour YouTube live stream to raise money for Leutner. Joe Jazwowski, an administrator for another website, Creepypasta Network, who also lived in Waukesha at the time of the stabbing, said the purpose of the stream was to show the members of the community that cared for the victim and did not condone real-world violence. Governor Scott Walker issued a proclamation declaring August 13th, 2014, Purple Hearts Day for Healing, and encouraged the people of Wisconsin to wear purple to honor Leutner. He also praised the strength and determination she exhibited during her recovery. On August 29, 2014, Madison, Wisconsin held a one-day bratwurst festival to honor Leutner, selling hot dogs and bratwurst to raise money towards the medical costs. The event was run by over 250 volunteers and raised $70,000. Now, I will say this, again, being from Michigan, a lot of people, there's a lot of Germans that live here. They're all about their bratwurst and their hot dogs. I mean, they even have a bratwurst stand outside of our hardware store of Menards. So you go to any Menards around here, whatever time, in middle of winter, there's a big, huge grill sitting out in front of Menards grilling bratwurst for like $2. So, and I know this because every time we drive by it, you can smell it. And if I'm with my fiance, we have to stop and he has to get a bratwurst because he cannot handle driving by and not buying one. So on October 29th, 2019, Leutner, then 17, spoke publicly for the first time to ABC's 2020. She dismissed her scars, saying, "I don't think much of them. They will probably go away and fade eventually." She described meeting and befriending Geyser in 4th grade to help her feel less alone, and that Weir, who Geyser introduced to Leutner, had seemed jealous of their friendship. When asked what she would say if she ever saw Geyser again, Leutner said she would thank her because the attack inspired her to pursue a career in medicine. Leutner said her hope was to put everything behind me and live my life normally. Now, that's something that, after watching this documentary that we kind of skipped around on, that was something that I wondered. Was Anissa jealous? And, when you start to hear the things about Morgan seeing all these hallucinations, seeing all these things, really truly believing she's seeing the Slenderman places, things like that, was Anissa, obviously she was deemed mentally ill, but was she the one that kind of ran this? Did she use Morgan's mental illness to get rid of this girl that she was jealous of and afraid was going to take her friendship? Because she didn't really have any friends either. And kids will they'll make some really bad choices just to have a friend. Nobody wants to be alone, especially not when you're, like that age. The stabbing generated extensive public debate about the role of the internet in society and its effect on children. Waukesha Police Chief Russell P. Jack said the stabbing should be a wake-up call for all parents, because although the internet is full of information and wonderful sites that teach and entertain, it can also be full of dark and wicked things. And that's true. We see that. A lot of us are seeing that right now all over YouTube. With all of this, these channel wars and this side versus that side. And no matter whether you're in the right or you're in the wrong, it wears on you. It gets in your head, that negativity. It just does. John Eaglehoff, a retired FBI agent, said that the internet had become a black hole that risks exposing children to a more sinister world. Eaglehoff suggested that parents should monitor their children's internet use and educate them on the differences between right and wrong, which to me is just a no-brainer. But, there's people that don't think that don't believe that that's important, that they can trust their kid. It's not a big deal. Nothing. It's not going to happen to us, right? It's not going to happen to us. Shira Chess, an assistant professor of mass media arts at the University of Georgia, described creepypasta as no more dangerous than stories about vampires or zombies, and that creepypasta websites are beneficial as creative writing communities. And that's exactly it. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I grew up when we had, heavy metal bands going in front of Congress because parents were fighting that the music was making their kids do this stuff. And is it? Or is it that, what do we need to focus on? This goes back to something else that we were talking about in one of my last lives too, is mental illness and mental health help, and the importance of helping people that are mentally ill before something happens, before they go into a school and hurt a bunch of people, before they do something like this and they believe in this fantasy about some serial killer cult club that is run by a faceless man. Do we police the internet? Where do we put our energy? On policing the internet and policing these things, or do we put it on helping our kids, helping put programs in place that could possibly catch these things when children are younger, in schools, things like that, before it gets to this point? The stabbing spawned a nationwide moral panic over Slenderman across the United States. The stabbing and the negative media attention it generated irreversibly altered the Slenderman legend and the online community surrounding it. Parents nationwide became worried about the potential dangers that stories about Slenderman might pose to their children's safety. Russell Jack, the police chief of Waukesha, warned that Slenderman stabbing should be a wake-up call for parents. And yeah, you know, I mean, you do have to protect your kids. The internet is... my son was in Scouts, and every year we would do cyber training, it was about a month long, and we would do this with our kids at home, and you had to do it. Each parent had to sign, we had to take a test, etc. But what it did is it would remind me of things that I just didn't think of. And, you know, your kid's in their room all night with their tablet, and they're online, and they're on games, they're on Roblox, they're on Minecraft, whatever. And you don't know who they're talking to. They can talk to each other on those games. My son's shown me. And you gotta hope. Kids don't come already knowing things. And I think sometimes we give our kids a little bit too much credit. And so we don't say things because they seem like common sense. But look what's going on with YouTube, with YouTube, Facebook, all of it, TikTok, all of it. We're grown adults and we can't always handle ourselves appropriately. And we trust people we shouldn't on here. And we, you know, maybe get TMI with someone who ends up a month or so later not liking us and using against us to hurt us. Or, I mean, you've got people driving by people's houses, showing up, calling people's jobs, things like that. Our kids are dealing with those same people online. And so I was always grateful that we took those classes, because it really reminded me that the internet really is. It's like having an unlocked door in your house. And you wouldn't just leave your back door open for anyone to come in without your knowledge and walk right into your kid's room. It's no different on the internet. And it's easy to forget that while there are many wonderful things about the internet, while there's, you know, unlimited information, there's some of it good, some of it bad, but there's always a bad side to everything. And unfortunately, there are people out there that want to hurt us. And there are things out there that if someone like myself reads it, I can read it as a scary story. But if someone like this little girl with extreme mental illness reads it, it's like a Bible to her. And it's scary. After hearing the story, an unidentified woman from Cincinnati, Ohio, told a WLWT TV reporter in June 2014 that her 2-year-old daughter had attacked her with a knife and had written macabre fiction, some involving the Slenderman, who the mother said motivated the attack. On September 4th, 2014, a 14-year-old girl in Port Richey, Florida, allegedly set her family's house on fire while her mother and 9-year-old brother were inside. Police reported that the teenager had been reading online stories about Slenderman, as well as at Sushi Okubo's Manja Soul Eater. Eddie Daniels of the Pasco County Sheriff's Office said the girl had visited the website that contains a lot of Slenderman information and stories. It would be safe to say there's a connection to that. During an early 2015 epidemic of taking one's own life attempts by young people ages 12 to 24 on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, Slenderman was cited as an influence. Oglala Sioux tribe president noted that many Native Americans traditionally believed in a self-harm spirit similar to Slenderman. I wonder if it's anything to do with like skinwalkers. The 2018 film Slenderman generated controversy soon after it was announced, with some accusing the filmmakers of exploiting the stabbing. Sony representatives insisted that the film was not based on the stabbing, but rather on the broader Slenderman mythos. Anissa Weir's father, Bill, protested the film as extremely distasteful and advised local theaters not to screen it. A petition on the website Care2 demanding the film not be released received over 19,000 signatures. Marcus Theaters did not show the film at its Milwaukee and Waukesha locations. Following its release, Bloody Disgusting reported that Screen Gems had required the producers to meet a PG-13 rating, and that several scenes had been cut over fears of public backlash, leading to continuity errors in the film. The film received largely negative reviews. Beware the Slenderman, a documentary film about the stabbing, was released by HBO Films in March 2016 and broadcast on HBO on January 23rd, 2017. It also received mixed reviews. The Law and Order Special Victims Unit episode, Glasgow Man's Wrath, aired November 5th, 2014, and was loosely based on the event. Criminal Minds episode, The Tall Man, aired October 31st, 2018, and was also inspired by this story. The episode of The Rookie, titled Chaos Agent, features a subplot based on the event. And Terror in the Woods, a fictional film inspired by the stabbing, aired on Lifetime on October 14th, 2018. Mercy Black was released on Netflix on March 31st, 2019. And on September 1st, 2022, author Kathleen Hale released a nonfiction book about the incident called Slenderman, a tragic story of online obsession and mental illness, based on interviews Hale had conducted with Geyser and her mother. So that is the origins of the Slenderman story. And let me see. Now, it's not the Slenderman that is in Minecraft, by the way. It is... Let me see if I can find his image. Oh, that's not a good one. Let me see. We gotta find a better image than that. But I remember my niece coming up and talking about him with us, and we were just like, what are you talking about? I mean, she really believed that it was true. She really and truly believed that this person was true, that she was scared. She didn't want to... She was scared to go outside at night, all this stuff. I mean... So let's see. This is Slenderman. And there are a whole bunch of other... try and find some of the other guys. So here are... These are some of the characters in the creepypasta. So here we've got Slenderman, Ben Drowned, Jeff the Killer, Tiki Toby, Eyeless Jack. And now this Jeff the Killer, that is another one that this little Anissa truly believed was real. And she even cut her hair to look like him. So, like I said, I just wonder. Yeah, here they are. I mean, there's lots of fan art. There was lots of stories about this written on this as, you know, people sharing their work. And sadly, these little girls got a hold of it and something horrible ensued. So, all right, everybody, that is it for this crime cast. I just wanted to, I'm so glad I finally got this out. I'm sorry it took so long. My life has been just, whoo, but things are just little by little getting back to norm. So I want to thank you for everybody for hanging out and for lasting through this and listening. And if you would please hit the thumbs up button for me and subscribe to my channel. I'm still trying to grow my channel, and every like and every subscribe that I get helps put me out in that algorithm. And if you have anything to say about this, any opinions, what do you think? Is the internet to blame? Are these little girls not getting mental health help when they should have to blame? Is it a combination? Do you think that the government should be able to tell us, like Australia, when our kids should be allowed to have social media and when they shouldn't? Or should it be a decision among families? I don't know. I try to make the best decisions that I can for my kids in my own home. I think most of you probably do the same. But yeah, let me know what you think. And I will talk to you guys later. Peace, love, and claws.